Part 2. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 11. 11. Start the journey. What is the function of the system? What is the exchange for items? Chen Yuyan asked. The system functions include inventory, training space, super memory state, epiphany state, etc., which can provide various conveniences for experimenters during the battle. In exchange for items, experimenters can bring back various items from other worlds, but these items need to pay reward points to bring back to the current world. For example, if you get a gun in another world, then you need to pay the corresponding reward points to take the gun away. It's still a little unclear. It seems that I need to go to another world once, and get this reward point to know more system functions, Chen Yuyan thought deeply. Suddenly he thought of something, and asked again, so there are many experimenters? What is the relationship between the experimenters? Confrontation or cooperation? It is true that there are many experimenters. Whether they oppose each other or cooperate or not depends on the experimenters themselves, but the system needs to remind you that when you came to this world, it was the time when this world opened and entered the experimenter. It has now been 34 years, which means you are 34 years behind the other experimenters. 34 years. Chen Yuyan turned pale with shock. He had never thought about this problem, but what the system threw out now was a blockbuster. I'm 34 years behind. In other words, the influence of other experimenters in this world is no longer known, and it may even be said that they have established a country. He shouted. The experimenters enter in batches. You are the first batch in this world. That is to say, if there is an experimenter who is in the same batch as you, he is indeed 34 years ahead of you. The sound of the system gouging is silent. Chen Yuyan's face turned livid. There are still many traversers in this world, and according to the plots of various novels he has read, there is almost no possibility that the traversers are in love with each other. In other words, in the worst case, he will face one or even more behemoths that have been developing in this world for more than 30 years. Reminder, the next world shuttle will start in 24 hours, experimenters please get ready. The sound of the system woke Chen Yuyan up from the shock. Yes, why are you still complaining about yourself now? There is still a way to go, at least, other experimenters don't have the awesome thing of infinite base. Thinking of this, Chen Yuyan once again felt boundless pride in his heart. Isn't it just 34 years? As long as you dare to block my way, I will kill you even if it is a god. System. Receive rewards, and prepare to strengthen my primary physique. Chen Yuyan said, walking quickly. Go back to the infinite factory, take the elevator to the underground base, take off your clothes and walk into the medical cabin. As the hatch closed automatically, countless green liquids were injected into it, which seemed to contain hypnotic ingredients, and Chen Yuyan soon felt his eyelids twitch and gradually lost consciousness. Primary physique strengthening has been completed. Please leave the medical cabin. Reminder, your physique has been strengthened to the limit of primary physique enhancement. Please complete the task or obtain special items to unlock more advanced physique enhancement methods. The sound of the system sounded, and Chen Yuyan also woke up from his sleep. He opened the medical cabin and walked out, and the green liquid that had become very light in the medical cabin was slowly discharged. After waking up, he only felt refreshed and extremely comfortable. He came to the middle of the room, opened his posture and punched 3 times in a row. Who? Call. Call. There were bursts of piercing sounds in the air, and the strength and speed of these 3 punches reached a terrifying level. Feeling the powerful power brought by the 2 primary physique enhancements in his body, Chen Yuyan nodded in satisfaction. It's just that it has reached the limit of primary strengthening after only strengthening it twice. Chen Yuyan thought for a while, took off his shirt, walked to the door, jumped up, grabbed the door frame and started doing pull ups. 10, 20. 100, he didn't stop until he did 200 pull ups. With his current strength, his own weight is too light for his arms, and this level of pull UPS can only be regarded as aerobic exercise. After doing 200 pull UPS, his body is also covered with fine lines. There were beads of sweat, and the muscles seemed to be more obvious than before. You must know that his body just after crossing belongs to a rich second generation. Although that person also exercises regularly, it is still far from what Chen Yuyan needs. In addition, he has been in a coma in an underground base for more than 30 years, and his muscles are not strong enough. It's been a miracle to relax. Maybe it's not a miracle, but what advanced equipment those people in the base did it. Now after this period of exercise, his body has begun to adjust to the proper muscle level at an extremely fast speed. It is not the end yet, and the improvement brought about by the second physical strengthening still needs to continue high-intensity exercise to reflect it. This made his physical fitness almost reach the limit that ordinary people can achieve. It just needs further training to fully arouse. He found some concrete blocks or oil drums in the base and tried his best to exercise. After about an hour, he stopped exercising, wiped the sweat off his body, and came to a mirror. Taking out the dagger, Chen Yuyan began to shave off the stubble on his cheeks and chin little by little, and carefully looked at the young man who appeared in the mirror. This is a face that he is very familiar with. It is impressively the 21 or 20-year-old self when he was young. It seems that he has become younger and then traveled through time. It does not look like he has changed his body at all. I don't know if the original owner of this body is exactly like him, or the system has adjusted the appearance. But it doesn't matter anymore. The sharp-edged cheeks, thick sword eyebrows, and thin lips make him look heroic, but the big eyes give him a cute feeling. Beneath such a sunny and handsome face are those well-proportioned muscles and clearly defined waistcoat lines, which contain powerful strength. In his previous life, he got the information he wanted more than once. Seeing his own appearance again, Chen Yuyan's mood suddenly became very good. He shook his right hand, but felt a little regretful. He was still not used to the empty feeling of his right hand. In his previous life, the monster tattoo on his right hand and the rosary wrapped around his wrists several times, strung together by 108 miniature Buddha statues, were almost as loud as thunder in that small Southeast Asian country, which was a symbol of death. He's an undercover informant, but for the sake of the endgame, he's also had to play a role he'd rather not be, and he's done pretty well. There is also the condition of your own body. You also need to experiment. If you can't even understand your own body, what kind of enemy can you say to defeat? Tiberium immunity? To what extent? Tiberium crystals are fatal to the human body, and a reaction will appear within a few minutes after contact, but according to the description in the zero file, I should be immune to tiberium crystals. This is very important. You must figure out the specific condition of your body. The system will give you the other parts of the zero file next time. I don't know how long it will be, so you can only rely on yourself. Now that you have decided, do it and bear all the consequences. Even if you die here because of this, you still have to do it. Chen Yuyan has always been such a ruthless person. Without hesitation, he grabbed the tiberium crystal with his bare hands and squeezed it hard. The expected pain did not appear, and there was no reaction other than the pain in the hand being pierced by the hard crystal. Chen Yuyan grabbed the crystal and smashed it hard on the ground a few more times, then scratched and scratched at the shards of the tiberium crystal with both hands, but there was also no response. Afterwards, a flash of determination flashed in Chen Yuyan's eyes. He used a knife to draw two X-shaped wounds on his palm, and then grabbed the tiberium crystal powder again. A tingling feeling came from the center of the palm. Chen Yuyan spread his hands. His bloody palm was covered with tiberium crystal powder, red blood and green powder mixed together, dripping down the palm of his hand drop by drop come. Then, the green powder was absorbed by the flesh around the wound at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the powder mixed in the blood gradually disappeared. At the same time, I can only see that his wound is gradually healing. Not only the wounds, Even the blood mixed with tiberium powder dripping on the ground began to show a little green light after absorbing the powder. Not only that, he felt that the power in his body seemed to be a little stronger. After about a few minutes, the wound on the palm of his hand healed completely, and Chen washed away the blood, and it was as good as before, as if he had not suffered any injuries. After a while, the extra power in his body gradually dissipated. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. This ability is really too powerful. He asked, "System, can I carry things into other worlds?" It can be carried after using reward points to upgrade the system functions. You didn't say what you said, okay. Chen raised his middle finger to the sky. The system ignored him, and just continued to remind lightly, "World shuttle will start in 1 hour, experimenters please get ready." An excited smile appeared on the corner of Chen Yuyan's mouth. "Let's begin. Past life, no regrets. This life. All Heavens Unlimited Base." Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 12. 12 New World, New People. Rumbling, the roar of the helicopter's engine was still echoing in his ears. Chen Yuyan sat on it and looked at the passengers who were also sitting in the helicopter. These passengers were all wearing uniform black t-shirts. Everyone was strong and muscular. Many of them had tattoos on their bodies, and the fat guy opposite had all kinds of tattoos on his arms. But Chen Yuyan's focus was not on this. What he saw was a mark on the sleeve of the black t-shirt, a red and white umbrella. No matter how ignorant Chen Yuyan is about games, he can still recognize this famous logo, Umbrella Corporation. If the multidimensional universe shuttle function mentioned by the system is true, then this is the world of the Resident Evil series. He remembered the conversation with the system before entering this world. That is to say, the current bronze group can only enter a relatively elementary world, and they cannot know in advance what the target world is. After upgrading the group level, you can enter a more advanced world, and you can know what the target world is in advance. If you continue to upgrade, you can even change the world you want to go to. Of course, sometimes if you are lucky, high-level groups will also enter the relatively low-level world, but there will be restrictions. For example, Chen Yuyan is now in the bronze group, so in the world, at most, he will only meet the junior experimenters of the silver group, and there will not be too much distance. Also, he can't bring anything into the world, not even clothes. For this reason, Chen Yuyan had a lot of trouble, but the system told him that if he wanted to bring things in, he could, but he had to use reward points to upgrade the system functions. And the system also emphasizes again that going to other worlds will not affect the current world. Because different times are in different timelines, no matter how long he delays in other worlds, it is only a moment here. And so, Chen Yuyan embarked on a journey to another world by himself. It's just that he didn't know that his destination was actually the world of Resident Evil. It's just that there are movies and games in the series, and there are a lot of miscellaneous things. Who knows what time it is now? Final task, survive until January 1st of the second year. Hint 1, multiple experimenters will enter the mission world at the same time, with different intervention identities, but the mission goal is the same. Note that different groups of experimenters face different difficulties in the living environment, and there will only be junior silver group experimenters at the highest level in this task world. Tip 2, the task rewards will be settled according to the completion of the experimenter, and there will be other hidden task rewards that can be obtained during the task process. Tip 3, the language translation function has been turned on, and the experimenter can communicate with people from any country in the world, but the other party can directly hear the accent of the nationality of the experimenter. If the experimenter is proficient in the language, the effect will be based on the experimenter's own language ability. The system's voice came again, pulling Chen Yuyan back from his thoughts, and he was a little confused about this task. In the past, the missions of the system had a clear direction, but the current missions are just casually saying that they will survive until January 1st of the next year. The specific circumstances are not stated at all. In other words, this mission world is basically open. Whether you can complete the mission, or even get higher rewards, depends entirely on your own strength. Chen Yuyan was thinking about it, when suddenly the fat man opposite him stomped his feet fiercely, then looked at him and said, "Hey, Wuxia boy. Let's meet. My name is Hector Civis, from Puerto Rico. How about you?" Chen Yuyan immediately saw that his left foot was equipped with a prosthetic limb to assist mobility, and looked at the man again. He is about 30 years old, his complexion is a bit dull, although he is obese, the well-developed muscles under the fat are faintly visible. It seems that this guy is definitely not a kind person. But for the sake of what he thought was a kind smile, Chen Yuyan still nodded and replied, "My name is Chen Yuyan. As you can see, I am from Wuxia." "Ha ha ha ha, yes, I like Wuxia. I always wanted to travel after retiring, but later I found out that I have no money in my pocket, ha 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 ha." Fat Hector Civis laughed. This guy has a pretty good personality, quite cheerful. Chen Yuyan made this judgment. He also responded with a smile, "Have you been a soldier before?" "Yes. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers." Hector said, stomping his left foot with the assistive prosthesis, "But once I blew up something that wasn't supposed to be blown up, and I put a leg on it, so the bastard forced me to retire. What a humming bastard, I told them to hit 3 with 1 leg." At this time, Chen Yuyan was thinking about where there was such a fat man in Resident Evil, Hector Civis, whose name he had never heard of before. In his poor understanding of the world of Resident Evil, he only knows the familiar characters such as Leon, Claire, Alice, and the Red Queen, but what are these people doing and what is the situation? New. Seeing that Chen Yuyan was in a daze again, Hector followed his gaze, his eyes lit up, and he patted his thigh and laughed loudly, "Hi. What are you looking at?" "You're looking at a woman." I said, "Do you like such a woman?" "Ha ha ha, stop being funny." It turned out that on the other side sat a tall blonde woman. But to be honest, this woman's appearance is indeed very ordinary, with rough skin, freckles, somewhat masculine features, and short golden hair neatly combed behind her head. Moreover, she is tall, at least 1.8 meters, and she is not inferior to the men around her. But what Chen Yuyan cared more about was the woman's eyes. Under the deep-set eye sockets, there is a pair of blue eyes full of viciousness, piercing like poisonous snakes. She heard Hector's words clearly, she stared at him with cold eyes, the corner of her mouth suddenly split for no reason, showing a sinister smile. "Fatty, which way of death do you want to choose? Use Botox to directly treat the muscles, how about an injection?" Hector scratched his head heartlessly and laughed, he, it's better to switch to glucose. "I remember you. The woman didn't seem to want to cause trouble on the plane," she said coldly, then she cast another glance at Chen Yuyan, "And you?" "It's none of my business, big sister." Chen Yuyan expressed helplessness at the inexplicable lying down. "Hey, ignore her." Hector patted Chen Yuyan's leg and said, "It's boring to sit here now, let's play some men's games." He bit the word man very hard, and glanced at the woman intentionally or unintentionally. Chen Yuyan rolled his eyes and said, "If you want to pick up soap, there are so many muscular men on this plane, why are you looking for me?" As he spoke, he glanced at the 7 or 8 people sitting in the cabin, and found that one of the hunk men really bulged his muscles at him, and gave him a playful look. He suddenly felt goosebumps all over his body, and quickly looked back. Hector was obviously a bit unfamiliar with the word picking up soap, and he didn't understand it for a long time, so he said, "I mean wrench strength." "Enough, man. Come on. Come on. We just happen to be facing each other, that's it. Thank you for the 2,000 starting point coins rewarded by the assimilation fighter. Thank you for the 100 starting point coins that Maple Leaf BFI rewarded. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 13. 13 A Melee. Wrench Strength. Chen Yuyan looked around, and found that the people around him were all muscular people with broad shoulders, round waist, and the only woman seemed to be not a kind person. A wrench, isn't that which pot is not opened and which pot is lifted? A faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth and said, Are you sure? Right here? Arm wrestling? Come on, come on. It's boring anyway, isn't it? Hector said with a smile. If you just look at his smile, you will feel that this person is very harmless. The few people next to him also started booing and yelling, and for a while, ghosts and wolves were howling in the narrow cabin. Chen Yuyan didn't say much, just stretched out his hand, slightly bent his arm, and clenched his fist. Hector looked at Chen Yuyan's arm, which was 2 full circles smaller than his own, smiled narrowly, and stretched out his right hand in the same posture, and their wrists touched together. 1, 2, 3. Go. The person who had already had a good time became the referee beside him. Chen Yuyan and Hector immediately began to push each other's wrists away with all their strength. The muscles in their arms swelled up, and the veins stood out. Hector gritted his teeth and looked ferocious. However, what frightened Hector a little was that he only felt that Chen Yuyan's wrist was like an iron rod. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake it at all. And Chen Yuyan's face is also a bit dignified, his body has been strengthened twice, and now his physical fitness can be said to be close to the limit of the ordinary human body, but he also found that the fat man in front of him is stronger than he imagined, much bigger among them. He has a rough estimate of how strong a person is, and he now knows that this fat man's strength is definitely not within a normal range. In other words, it is impossible for an ordinary person to have such great power. In his previous world, it's not that he hasn't come into contact with those top soldiers and killers, but their strength is at most only 1/3 of this fat man's. Is this person an experimenter? Chen Yuyan's eyes gradually narrowed, and he began to think about the possibility. At the same time, the strength on his wrist did not relax in the slightest. His strength was still stronger than that fat man's, but it took a lot more effort than expected. At this time, Hector was already sweating profusely, and his fat face was flushed with suffocation. He almost used up all his breastfeeding strength, but he still couldn't stop his wrists from opening a little bit to the outside. Finally, he let out a breath, staggered and almost fell down. Fortunately, the helicopter was relatively narrow, and he was blocked by the people next to him, so he didn't fall down. Hector rubbed his bruised wrist, looked at Chen Yuyan with a hint of fear in his eyes, and murmured, Why are you so strong? Chen Yuyan smiled and said nothing, but the people next to him laughed again. Ha 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 ha. Fatty, your humming fat is grown from eating pig feed, ha 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 ha. A muscular man with broad arms and round waist laughed very loudly. Hector's eyes waited, with a ferocious expression on his face. Son, what the hell are you saying? That man was not polite either. Seeing that Hector couldn't even compare to someone of Chen Yuyan's stature, he became even more certain that he was just a puffy trash, and cursed harder and harder. But now in the cabin, they couldn't fight even if they wanted to, so the two exchanged harsh words and scolded each other furiously. Most of the other people on the plane were also desperados, and of course it was impossible to stop them. They just watched the bustle and kept booing. The plane flew all the way like this. Through the window, Chen Yuyan saw that it was flying to an isolated island, but he couldn't know the exact location. As the height gradually decreased, he saw that the isolated island had undergone extensive development, and a barracks with a large area was built in the relatively flat area on the east side. On the west side of the island, the terrain is a bit rough, and there are some buildings, but the most conspicuous one is a gorgeous mansion. The barracks and the mansion are separated by a hill, with a clear distinction between way and way. The destination of the helicopter was the barracks. The plane had just landed and hadn't stopped yet. Hector roared like a brown bear and rushed towards the person who scolded him. Others on the plane quickly avoided, but the cabin was so narrow, how could they escape? Immediately, almost everyone was involved, and they fought hand to hand in the narrow cabin. Who will hit me, Wukonima? Don't humming get in the way. Squeeze you MLGB. Get out. Wow, the sliding door of the engine room was opened, and the huddled people fell down with a plop. They didn't intend to stop. Now the place is more spacious and the ground is hit harder. Now no one cares who they are beating. Anyway, if they catch someone, they will hit them, and after they get down, they will go to the next one. Chenyuyan was naturally not immune, but he was born fighting in the streets and alleys since he was a child, and his physical fitness is also much stronger than these people, so he is naturally like a fish in water. For a while, he also got up to fight, and he already got down on the ground inside the cabin, rolled outside and punched another one unconscious. On the ground side, many people have already gathered around to watching the dozen or so people fight in full swing. They all cheered loudly. Yes. Fatty. Give him a kick in the face. Damn it. That woman actually used her vaginal legs, too ruthless. Did you see that Oriental guy? He's actually so powerful. I bet $100 that the Oriental guy will definitely stand last. That Oriental guy is really good. Suzuki has an opponent this time. Hector is showing his power now. He twisted the person who scolded him on the plane, and smashed it to the ground like a chicken, until the person spurted blood and begged for mercy. Someone next to him wanted to sneak up on him, but he punched him in the back, but he just swayed and kicked the attacker away 3 or 4 meters away. The dust gradually settled, and there were only 3 people left standing in the battle group: Chenyuyan, Hector, and one person who was a bit surprised. It was that woman. Now the 3 of them are standing in the middle. Hector Civis gasped, looking like a raging bull, and wanted to pounce on the woman at any time, but he also felt that the women are definitely not simple. And the woman is also staring at Hector and Chenyuyan with ruthless eyes, like a poisonous snake that will choose someone to devour at any time. And Chenyuyan said that he was lying on the ground, even though he had a good fight just now. At this moment, the crowd of onlookers suddenly gave way with a huff, and a man wearing a black combat uniform, a steel helmet and a gas mask with bright red lenses walked over. He looked at the 3 people who were still standing, and then at the moaning people lying on the ground, and said in a dull voice under the mask, "You 3, return to the team immediately. Those who fall on the ground, weed out. Send them away now. All Heavens Unlimited Base." Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 14. 14 Similar People. Chenyuyan looked in the direction of the gas mask man's finger, and sure enough there was a row of people in black t-shirts standing there. Not many of them, most of them had joking expressions on their faces. The group of onlookers here, there are at least hundreds of them, are wearing army green t-shirts, and all of them have the logo of Umbrella Company on their clothes. It seems that I belong to the black t-shirt side. It seems that the status is higher. He took another look at the man in the gas mask, and his intuition told him that this man is quite difficult to mess with. Looking over again, I saw that the woman had already walked there without hesitation, but she was very obedient. It seemed that she felt it too. Chenyuyan also started to move, walking towards the queue of black t-shirts. However, Hector was excited. He was about to rush up just now, but now he was interrupted. The anger in his heart could not be held back for a long time. He turned his head and stared at the man in the gas mask and shouted, "What the hell are you?" Plop. Before he finished speaking, he was already knocked to the ground. Seeing this scene, Chenyuyan's pupils instantly constricted like the tip of a needle. So fast. Such a strong force. What a great skill. He could clearly see that at that moment, The man in the gas mask rushed up like lightning, kicked his calf and hit his chin, and at the same time hit Hector's chest squarely with an elbow. Triple hit. Hector, who weighed at least 250 kilograms, was beaten and lay on the ground, unable to stand up. Several men in suits had already run over from the other direction. They looked at Hector and asked, "Is this man eliminated?" "Captain Hank? He didn't even break his ribs, that's good. He's okay when he's sent to the infirmary." After Hank finished speaking, he turned around and left without delay. When Chen Yuyan came to the row of black t-shirts, these people immediately looked him up and down, but Chen Yuyan's eyes just swept over these people and ignored them. They were all rubbish. Only one person in the corner attracted his attention. It was also an oriental face, with a thin body, sharp-edged cheeks, and an obvious scar on it. This person immediately gave him a very dangerous feeling. Not long after, a man in a suit walked over with a briefcase under his arm, came to the front of the group of black t-shirts, clapped his hands and said, "Okay. The last batch has arrived now. First of all, I'm glad you're willing to join Umbrella Corporation. I would like to reiterate your current contract. You are elite reserve personnel with a daily salary of $1,000. You will undergo a 1-month training at the Nuckford Island base. Breer Rapid Response Security Force, aka Umbrella Security Service, USS, and then your treatment will be." The man in the suit paused, "us $10,000, a daily salary. And for each combat mission, additional bonuses will be given according to the difficulty and completion of the mission. Considering the nature of the U.S., it is impossible to have simple missions, so the mission prize money ranges from $500,000 to $3 million. This is an unimaginably generous reward," and someone in the queue immediately whistled. The man in the suit continued, "Okay, since everyone can be listed as elite reserve personnel, it means that the company is also satisfied with your past experience in the preliminary review. As far as I know, there are at least 3 of you from Delta is retired. The compensation that Umbrella can give you is impossible for you to get elsewhere, so you have to show your value. Now go to the office over there to register and confirm your name and specialty bar." When registering, Chen Yuyan discovered that these people wearing black t-shirts were either retired Special Forces soldiers or seasoned veterans, and there were even professional killers, underground boxing champions, and even wanted criminals. In short, they are all top-notch masters. As for the woman who was on the same plane as Chen Yuyan, now he also knew her name: Michelle Heinzwaffen, German, former KSK field doctor. As for the Oriental man who left a deep impression on him just now, he was not among this group of people. In fact, this group of people is all a group of desperados, and they are the most dangerous kind. No matter how much Chen Yuyan didn't play games, he also knew that Umbrella Company was not a good company. He dared to take such a person in as his elite army, and he was worthy of being a villain. After the registration was completed, someone came and took them to the dormitory. Elite reserve personnel were treated much better than those wearing army green t-shirts. The dormitory was for 4 people, and it was clean and tidy. However, Chen Yuyan didn't want to have too much communication with his roommates. In his opinion, judging by the strength of the Captain Hank who appeared before, most of the people here will be eliminated, and very few will be left behind. When it came time to eat in the evening, things got a little more interesting. Because most of the people here are not kind, so most people sit at a table when eating. Even those who came later would not take the initiative to provoke others without knowing the details of the other party, since the cafeteria is very big anyway. And he himself, because of his outstanding performance in the group fight just now, no one came to find fault. And those ordinary reserve personnel wearing army green t-shirts are mostly sitting together in 2s and 3s, having a lively meal. Elite reserves. On the contrary, there were a few people here who started to fight at each other. Watching those people ping pong lively, Chen Yuyan watched with relish while eating with a plate of rice. However, at this moment, a rice plate was suddenly put down opposite him, and then a person sat opposite him. Chen Yuyan's eyes narrowed unkindly. What is this man doing here? Find fault. Chen Yuyan looked up, but he was a young foreigner with blonde hair and blue eyes, also wearing a black t-shirt. He looked at Chen Yuyan with a smile, and suddenly asked, "Are you an experimenter?" Chen Yuyan smiled lightly and said, "I'm here to make money, not to be an experiment." "You know that's not what I mean, or, even if you really don't know, it doesn't matter, you just treat me as nonsense." The young man said, "My name is Garcia, a senior in the bronze group. I have some understanding of the world we live in now. All the experimenters have the same mission goals, and we are divided into the same camp. There is no conflict between us, so if you want to exchange information with me, we can chat. If you want to fight, just slap the plate on my face, and I will fight to the end." As he spoke, he gave Chen Yuyan a slightly provocative look. To be honest, Chen Yuyan really wanted to smear his face with vegetable salad as he wished, but he held back and said lightly, "What can you tell me?" He thought about the joints in an instant. Indeed, as Garcia said, the system also mentioned that all the experimenters in this world have the same mission goal, and they all survive until January 1st of the next year. And he and Garcia were also assigned to Umbrella's barracks. They must be in the same camp, so they have common interests, at least for now. Thanks to the Assimilation Fighter and Silent 11 for the reward of 500 starting coins. Thanks to Time Shuttle 7288 and Tease Fans for the reward of 100 starting coins. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 15. 15 Information Exchange. Garcia's eyes lit up and said, "Are you really an experimenter? It seems that I found the right person. Am I different from others?" Chen Yuyan was still non-committal, turning the corner to ask. "He, in the Resident Evil series, there are not many Orientals appearing. Ada Wong is one, and the others are unknown. I saw you fighting in a group under the helicopter before. Your skills are good, definitely not. I'm an ordinary person, so I came to ask with the mentality of trying it out," Garcia said. Chen Yuyan pouted at the man with the scar who was eating alone in the corner and said, "Isn't there an Oriental man over there? Why don't you look for him?" Garcia laughed dumbly and said, "It seems that you don't understand this world at all. That person is called Suzuki Makoto, a character in the plot. He is a celebrity in this barracks. You can find out after a little inquiry. He used to be just in green clothes. Then all the exams and evaluations were among the best, which made the instructors in black impressed and transferred him here." Chen Yuyan nodded, confirming that what he said was not a lie, so he admitted, "I am indeed an experimenter, but I don't know whether I am a high level or a low level." "How many times have you undergone physical enhancement?" Garcia asked. "Twice." Chen Yuyan chose to answer truthfully this time, because this would not expose his own true strength, and the number of times of strengthening is not necessarily directly proportional to his strength. "Then you are almost at the middle level of the bronze group." "I have strengthened my physique 3 times, so I am an advanced level." Of course, this is just a generalization. In addition to physical strengthening, there are also requirements to go to other worlds to perform tasks. Generally, how much do you go to other worlds? You will learn some skills, so the calculation will be more complicated, Garcia said with a smile. Chen Yuyan looked puzzled. He didn't feel that Garcia was stronger than him. Why did he say that he had been strengthened 3 times? Moreover, didn't the system say that after he has strengthened twice, he has reached the peak and cannot continue to strengthen? He thought for a while and asked, "Then how can I get to the silver group?" "After 5 physical fitness enhancements, our physical fitness will reach the limit of ordinary people, and there are certain requirements for reward points. Generally speaking, after 3 times of world experience, we can advance to the silver group. 5 times of strengthening, Chen Yuyan vaguely grasped some key points. Could it be because of his unique physique? Can it be caused by the ability to absorb tiberium? In this way, the effect of each reinforcement is higher than that of other experimenters. Is this the only explanation? So the reason why I am still in the bronze group is because I have never completed a single training? Garcia went on to say, now we are in the world of Resident Evil, and it is not the messy and contradictory world of the movie version, but the game world of the original Capcom. How much do you know about this world? Chen Yuyan shook his head and said, I don't understand at all. I don't understand at all? Garcia's eyes widened in disbelief. What kind of person were you before you came into the system? You don't even know about Resident Evil. He leaned back on the back of the chair in disappointment, rolled his eyes and said, well, at least you can still fight. Well, then the two of us will act together, and I will tell you some information, but you also need to give I get paid. Chen Yuyan asked, what reward? If we get something good during the operation, then you need to show me first. If I am useful, then give it to me. I will take up to 3 items from you, how about it? Garcia Alice with Erlang's legs, he completely regarded himself as an uncle. Chen Yuyan did not show any dissatisfaction because of his arrogance, but continued to smile and said, then you should tell me some basic information now, right? Garcia only thought that Chen Yuyan had already agreed, and said excitedly, the location we are now should be Nuckford Island, located in the South Pacific Ocean, adjacent to South America. The Umbrella Company has a secret research institute here. And the base they use to cultivate their own armed forces. The current date is June 13, 1998, which means that we need to survive here for 6 months, which is definitely not easy. Chen Yuyan didn't speak, but he slowly leaned back on the backrest. This information can only be found out in 10 minutes, and it is completely worthless. He is waiting for really useful information. And the elite reserve team we are in now is to select members of the U.S.S, that is, the Umbrella Special Operations Force, and this force, in September, will be involved in a huge storm. Raccoon City, Garcia said. Raccoon City? Chen Yuyan repeated, he knew this, and almost all Resident Evil works mentioned this place. The city is almost completely infected by the virus, and the citizens have turned into zombies. It is a hell on earth. It seems that you still know Raccoon City. Garcia continued, it is a hell on earth, almost all of the more than 100,000 citizens have been infected by the virus and become zombies, and the USS will be sent to Raccoon City to carry out the most dangerous missions. Task. As he spoke, he pointed to the crowd in green t-shirts and said, those are ordinary reserve personnel. They will join U.B.C.S after passing the training, which is Umbrella's Biohazard Emergency Countermeasure Force. They are still quite elite, but compared to the U.S.S where everyone is a killing machine, they are still a lot worse. They will also be sent to Raccoon City, but the task pressure will be much less. In the end, he approached Chen Yuyan, pretending to be profound and said, so do you understand? If you want to live, you'd better follow me. I know the direction of the plot, so I naturally know how to live. It's just 3 items. Compared with life, this is nothing, right? At this time, Chen Yuyan only saw the ordinary reserve staff. He had been feeling it since just now, as if someone was staring at him. As for Garcia's clumsy performance, he didn't take it seriously at all. This person is too impetuous, even if he knows the plot, following him will only be tricked. Chen Yuyan also has his own plans for this mission in the world of Resident Evil. No matter how ignorant he is, he still knows the protagonists such as Leon, Claire, and Alice. It must be right to find a way to get close to these protagonists. Seeing that Chen Yuyan didn't speak, Garcia thought he was frightened by him, so he laughed and said, then wish us a happy cooperation. He stretched out his hand to shake hands. However, at this moment, with a bang, a rice plate was thrown on the table. There were 4 or 5 pieces of steak and a pile of buttered bread slices in the rice plate. "Come on, Brad, Yan is my brother. Get out of the way." The person who came was Hector Sieves. Although he was beaten to death by Hank, his physical fitness was astonishingly strong, and he had already recovered. Naturally, it was impossible for him who likes to be lively. Occupying a table by himself, he ran over to Chinhuyan's side. Garcia didn't argue either, he gave Chinhuyan a look, then got up and left. "Yan. Who's that sissy?" Hector asked. He, Chinhuyan didn't answer, but instead asked, "Why, have you recovered?" "Ha ha ha ha. That level of attack is tickling me." Hector patted his chest, then leaned over and pretended to be mysterious and said, "But I heard a piece of news in the infirmary. Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heaven's Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 16. 16 The First Battle of Reaper. Chinhuyan just felt that although this guy had a clever heart under his simple and honest appearance, he was still a cute guy, so he asked, "What news did you hear?" "The guy wearing the gas mask just now, his name is Hank. No one knows his real name, nationality, or origin. But he is a super ruthless guy. That guy worked for Umbrella a lot of time, no matter how dangerous the task is, he can complete it. But," Hector said with a serious face, "every time he is the only one who comes back alive." Hearing this, Chinhuyan's expression became solemn, and he was the only one who came back every mission. Does it mean that he sells his teammates, or does it mean that his strength has reached a certain level? Chinhuyan believed it should be the latter possibility. He is the captain of the Alpha team in the USS. Everyone calls him Death Hank. Hector said, "We won't be assigned to his team in the future, right? Aren't you worried that you won't pass the training?" Chinhuyan asked back. "Ha ha ha ha. Impossible. I've seen the people here, and there is almost no one comparable to us. If I can't do it, it's impossible for those rubbish to pass, ha 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 ha." Hector laughed again. He didn't hide his voice at all, and immediately there were several unkind eyes stabbing towards him like daggers. This guy seemed upset after being beaten up by Hank, and wanted to fight. Chinhuyan silently picked up his plate and moved it to the side. Sure enough, a big man stood up from the side. He looked at Hector with a stern look on his face, and roared, "Who the hell are you calling trash? Ah! Have the guts to look me in the eye and say it again." Hector picked up a piece of steak and stuffed it into his mouth together. The blood in the half-rare beef dripped down the corner of his mouth. He stood up and said loudly indistinctly, "I'm talking about you. You people humming rubbish." After speaking, he suddenly slammed the aluminum rice plate in his hand on the face of a person on the table next to him without warning. His strength was so great that he even printed the shape of a human face on the rice plate. The innocent man lying on the gun fell straight to the ground and passed out. Chinhuyan simply picked up the plate and walked towards the side. He didn't want to join in. Sure enough, Hector roared angrily and rushed towards the big man. Seeing the attack, several black t-shirts beside him who had long disliked Hector also rushed up to besiege him. All of a sudden, the steaks flew around, and the vegetables covered with salad dressing rained down, and more than a dozen people wrestled into a ball. While Chinhuyan was watching the excitement, someone yelled, "That Oriental guy is with Fatty." Then a few vicious men rushed over. "Hector of Wukonima." Chinhuyan cursed angrily, and was innocently involved in the melee again. Half an hour later, the elite reserve team assembled and stood in a queue on the playground. Opposite them, more than a dozen people, including Chinhuyan and Hector, stood in a row with bruised noses and faces. They were still glaring at each other with an air of dissatisfaction. Naturally, Chunyuan was also beaten, so many people surrounded the two of them and beat them, although he also killed several of them, but in the end, the good tiger couldn't stand the pack of wolves, and his nose was bruised and his face was swollen. A middle-aged man with a strong body stood between them and looked at them coldly. This middle-aged man is about 40 years old, and his face is full of determination like a knife and an axe. He is not tall, even a little fat, but standing there gives people an imposing manner like a mountain. Chunyuan knew without asking, that there was only one person here who could have such an aura reaper, Hank. 2 group fights in one day, not bad, you guys. Hank said coldly, the ones who are still lying in the infirmary are eliminated and sent away immediately. If more than a dozen people beat 2, they can all be sent to the hospital. Infirmary, that's garbage. He stared at Hector as he spoke, apparently knowing the cause of the fight. Hanka went on to say, as for the rest of you, it seems that you have a little excess energy, so the amount of training will be doubled afterwards. Of course, if you can still pass this way, I will submit a report to the company and let your contract price also doubled. Then he walked up to Hector, stared at him and said slowly, do you like fighting? Hector grinned, his front teeth were covered with blood stains, but before he could speak, bang bang bang. After a few muffled bangs, he lay down on the ground again. Hank asked this sentence one by one in front of the fighting group, and hit him after he finished asking, without being polite. Naturally, some of these desperados wanted to fight back, but Hank fought one by one, but no one could hold him for a round. Finally, Hanka came to Chunyuan and asked coldly, do you like fighting very much? Chunyuan's whole body was already tense, and he was ready for all battles. Sure enough, he only saw Hank punching like lightning, and he reacted instantly, cutting Hank's wrist diagonally with his hand, but Hank's movements were more than that. At the same time, he hooked his foot and hit Chunyuan's knee directly. Chunyuan did not retreat but advanced, one step forward, the palm of the other hand turned over to grab Hank's throat, bang bang bang. After a few muffled sounds, the attacks of the two were blocked by each other. It was another dazzling attack, and the attacks of both sides failed to work. Chunyuan had already noticed that Hank's lower body was extremely stable, and his legs moved a lot when he attacked, so he lowered his center of gravity and always paid attention to Hank's movements. Tricky kicks. It's very powerful, and a little clever, it seems to be a wild way. Hanka said slowly, and at the same time, he waved his left hand in front of Chunyuan, and punched out his right fist hard. Chunyuan had been on guard for a long time, crossed his hands to catch his punch and then directly twisted his wrist. But at this moment, only seeing Hank's figure suddenly sway, Chunyuan immediately saw some movement on his feet. This is a false move. He quickly turned sideways, and at the same time kicked out with a whip leg. If Hank kicked his leg at this time, he would just hit Hank's knee this time. However, he didn't expect Hank's kick to be fake at all. Hank raised his foot and stomped hard on the ground. The right fist that had been slowed down suddenly accelerated, and it changed into a slash and hit Chunyuan's right throat. Chunyuan felt his eyes go dark, his breathing became difficult, and he squatted on the ground with a thud, unable to stand up again. But you have too many thoughts, and the real fighting in the army has only one purpose, to kill. The sooner the better. One hit kills. Hank's voice came from his head, you are very good, you're triple the amount of training. Then Hank raised his volume and said loudly, remember, Umbrella is engaged in the most cutting-edge research in life sciences. And some experiments are very dangerous. U.S.S is the last of Umbrella. Shield, you must ensure that all tasks are completed 100%. 99% will not work. If you can't do this, then go to U.B.C.S. What the U.S.S wants is the elite among the elite. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 17. 17 Special Training. The following days were completely hell for Chen Yuyan. Hanka's special attention to him made him triple his training volume, marching with heavy loads, cross-country running, extreme training. His volume was 3 times more than others' times. The training here is completely in accordance with the most stringent training methods of special forces, almost to squeeze people's physical and mental strength to the limit. Every morning is physical training, marching tens of kilometers with heavy loads, or crossing swamps, or crossing obstacles. The afternoon is basically practical training. Because of the nature of the U.S.S, most of the training is carried out around the urban environment, including beheading operations, kidnapping operations, rescue of hostages, and training for handling so-called special incidents. And this kind of special event is basically the way to deal with the leakage of biochemical items, the mutation of the experimental body, and so on. Their rest time is only 2 hours a day. When they are extremely tired, they often fall asleep as soon as they close their eyes, and they are called up before they can sleep comfortably. What's more, even these 2 hours are restless. The alarm bell ringing at any time will always wake them up from their sleep, and they are required to get up and prepare for battle within 30 seconds. The only advantage is that Umbrella will also provide them with a lot of assistance in this completely inhumane training. For example, pills to enhance the quality of sleep, medicines to quickly replenish nutrients, medicines to help the spirit to be highly concentrated within a certain period of time, and so on. These are Umbrella's products in the field of life sciences. This also made Chen Yuyan understand that, at least for now, Umbrella is still a multinational group with a very positive international image. They have assets calculated in the hundreds of billions of dollars, but invest heavily in welfare and various pharmaceutical industries. In fact, the pharmaceutical industry has never been a profiteering industry. The research and development of a new drug is often accompanied by terrifyingly high research and development costs. However, due to the restrictions of international patent laws, the time for a new drug to be profitable is only about 10 years. The origin of an expensive drug. But even so, looking at the list of top 500 companies, there are not many pharmaceutical groups in it. Therefore, Umbrella's ability to grow bigger and stronger in the pharmaceutical industry is also something that several major countries are very willing to see. After all, the fields of medicine and life sciences still benefit all mankind. So the current Umbrella company is very popular in the world, and even the number of applicants for medical majors in various universities is much higher than what Chen Yuyan learned in his previous life. This is also true. The biotechnology in this world is extremely advanced. Even if it is only 1998, the development of biotechnology is at least 50 years more advanced than Chen Yuyan's previous world. After each training session, Hank would always leave Chen Yuyan and the other Japanese named Suzuki Makoto alone, and teach them some killing skills alone, and also talk about some past mission experience. However, Suzuki Makoto has always had a poker face, expressionless, and refused to say a word. This also made Chen Yuyan very interested in him, but he didn't say a few words to him. But Makoto Suzuki is really amazing. In several sparring sessions, Chen Yuyan was even defeated by him a few times. The outcome of the two was about 60-40. Even if Chen Yuyan had strengthened his physique twice, he could only have a slight advantage. And sometimes, Hank will personally give instructions to the two. It has to be said that Hank's strength is really terrifying. He is almost a humanoid killing machine that every muscle in his body can be used as a weapon. There is no trace of his fighting style, but it always appears in the deadliest place. Chen Yuyan can't imagine how a human being can be so strong. Makoto Suzuki admires Hank fanatically and is almost his fan. He has proposed more than once to join the U.S.S Alpha team directly led by Hank. But Hank just said that although he himself is very optimistic about him, from the company's point of view, the senior management hopes that Makoto Suzuki will go to another team. In this way, the days passed day by day. Garcia was also a little envious of Chinyu Banquet, and Hank took a fancy to him, but even he gradually saw Chinyu Yan's extraordinary skills. During this time, she also came to look for him from time to time, and occasionally revealed some plot information to Chinyu Yan, trying to whet his appetite and further win him over. But Chinyu Yan is such a fine person, he has been able to undercover the drug lord for 10 years. It can be seen at a glance that Garcia actually has a very shallow understanding of the plot. Type. Most players are like this, so it is unlikely that he will remember some details. So Chinyu Yan gradually began to keep a distance from Garcia. In his opinion, this person was too childish and naive, and he could be seen through at a glance. Let such a person be a teammate, it can only be a pig teammate. Probably aware of Chinyu Yan's alienation, Garcia sometimes looked at him with a bit of unkind eyes. As the training progressed, more and more people were eliminated, and as the training progressed, their elite reserve personnel began to separate from the ordinary reserve personnel in green t-shirts, and they did not see each other. Those who fought in the cafeteria before were all trained by Hank to double the amount of training, and they were wiped out in less than a week, leaving only Chinyu Yan and Hector Civis. Because the training here was too cruel, and even 3 people died in the process. The bodies of the 3 were all transported to the mansion on the other side of the island, which made Garcia feel a little scared. He once secretly mentioned to Chinyu Yan that the mansion on the other side of Rockford Island was hidden a huge secret and a very dangerous place. When about half of them were left, Umbrella began arranging some brainwashing sessions. About half of it is about how Umbrella is so great and upright, and how it works for the well-being of the people of the world. The other half is about how powerful Umbrella is, how rich it is, what it needs, and its weapons and equipment are even better than those of the US Special Forces. It's much more advanced. You can't have such a high salary and don't have such good equipment when you leave here. In short, it is a combination of carrots and sticks to ensure the loyalty of these people to the company. In the end, there were only 10 people left in the more than 100 elite reserve teams, including Chinyu Yan, Hector, Garcia, Makoto Suzuki, and that woman, Michaela Heinz-Waffen. It is worth mentioning that during such horrible training, Hector was almost shaved, and he lost a lot of weight. Now he no longer looks like a fat man, but a pile of muscles. Wall. Finally came the last day, and the last 10 members of the elite reserve team ushered in their final exam. After they assembled, Hank walked in with a woman in military uniform. This woman is only about 170 centimeters tall and close to 40 years old, but she has a tall and straight figure and a steady pace. Her appearance is relatively ordinary, but she is also quite attractive. Her brown curly hair is casually tied behind her head. If she is a few years younger, should belong to the typical Western beauty. After the woman walked in, she sized up Chinyu Yan and the 10 of them, and said slowly in a somewhat hoarse voice, "Among you, only 5 of you can finally join the U.S.S and get that lucrative contract. So, let's go head to head, whoever wins, wins everything, whoever loses, go home. Now, let's draw lots." And when drawing lots, unexpectedly, Chinyu Yan's opponent was Garcia. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 18. 18 Elimination. Apart from Chinyu Yan facing Garcia, Suzuki, Makoto, Michaela, and Hector were also separated, and they were the best performers in this hell training. Chinyu Yan glanced at the middle-aged woman indiscriminately. Is this a secret operation? The first group, Chinyu Yan, Garcia, let's start. The middle-aged woman felt Chinyu Yan's eyes very keenly, but she didn't express anything, she just said lightly. It didn't matter to Chinyu Yan, he smiled sassily, stepped forward, and stood still. Garcia hesitated. No matter how naive he was, he already knew during this period of training that he would never be Chinyu Yan's opponent. Whether it was Chen Yuyan who concealed his true strength from him or something else, in short, it was very difficult for him to keep up with the rhythm of the hell training here, but Chen Yuyan seemed to be able to persist even if he tripled the amount of training. But now there is no other way, Garcia gritted his teeth and stood up. You know what? This is our chance. That woman is the captain of the U.S. Delta team, and she's here to scout us. If we have a good fight and we're evenly matched, she'll definitely take the two of us too. Hired together? Garcia said in a very low voice. No. I don't think this fight will be very exciting. Chen Yuyan smiled lightly. Garcia immediately gritted his teeth and said, why don't you understand? How important it is to me to join the U.S. Do you know that during the Raccoon City incident 3 months later, the U.S. went to perform the most dangerous mission, but in the end all members returned, without a single casualty. In contrast, the U.B.C.S was almost wiped out. You are blocking my way to join the U.S., and you are killing me. Chen Yuyan said sternly, you want to hug your thighs, you are right. But after training for this period of time, I understand why the U.S. returned uninjured. This is because of their super fighting ability. And you, even if you join the U.S., you can't hold this leg, because you can't keep up with their rhythm. Think of other ways, it's for your own good. Otherwise, even if you join the U.S., you won't be able to keep up with them in battle. There is only one way to be abandoned. After thinking about it, he added another sentence, I will try to be as gentle as possible, so as not to leave you with any serious injuries. Go to hell. Before Chen Yuyan could finish speaking, Garcia rushed forward with a ferocious expression, his fists whistling. Chen Yuyan's last words were actually intended to annoy him. One thing to say, although Garcia's words and deeds look like an otaku who has not experienced much social experience, it is true that he has undergone 2 physical enhancements. During this month's training, Chen Yuyan also observed him. His strength and speed are indeed stronger than most of the elite reserve team. It cannot be said that he has been able to persist until now because of luck. Garcia's attack is extremely fierce. It can be seen that even before coming to the world of Resident Evil, he has undergone rigorous training, and he is definitely a master even in the bronze group. But snapped. Chen Yuyan raised his hand instantly, and bumped his elbow squarely into his fist. There was only a muffled sound, but Garcia's fist hit an extremely hard elbow. He felt pain immediately, and his strength relaxed. Chen Yuyan seized this opportunity to clasp his wrist with his backhand and twisted hard. Garcia immediately, she lost her center of gravity and jumped forward, and at the same time, Chen Yuyan's knee had already arrived. Boom! The knee hit Garcia's chest directly, knocking him flying, and crashing into a car next to him with a bang, making a huge dent in the door. Easy, instant kill. Chen Yuyan raised his hand and looked at his palm, feeling a little satisfied. During this month, he was like a sponge constantly absorbing the results of training, further squeezing the effects of physical strengthening, and he has completely mastered the killing skills taught by Hank. He had been an undercover agent in that small country in Southeast Asia for many years. How many times he fought between life and death, and more than 100 people died under his hands. This kind of experience made him feel like a fish in water in this kind of training. Garcia, who claims to be a high-level bronze group, has no ability to resist in front of him. Garcia's face was grim at this time, he clutched his chest and struggled to stand up, but Chen Yuyan's collision just now made him unable to do so for a while, so he could only stare at him with resentful eyes. Chen Yuyan clapped his hands, turned around and prepared to go back to the queue. However, at this moment, Garcia finally jumped up in the midst of great resentment, casually found a dagger in the car, and rushed towards Chen Yuyan from behind. Chen Yuyan had already noticed him from the corner of his eye, a coldness flashed across his face, and he turned around instantly to give Garcia a fatal blow. However, at this moment, someone was faster than him. There was only a click, and Garcia's left foot joint was kicked, twisted to 90 degrees, and then he was also punched hard in the chest. With a scream, Garcia flew backwards and hit the car again. Chen Yuyan narrowed his eyes. It was the middle-aged woman who did it. What a strong skill. Even if it is not as good as Hank, it is definitely among the top. If you lose, you lose. Don't let me see this defeated dog again, the woman said sharply. Garcia screamed and saw his left foot bent at 90 degrees, and his tibia was broken. Although this injury is serious, it is definitely not fatal, and it will take about half a year to recuperate. It is estimated that the middle-aged woman just wants to teach him a lesson. However, he is an experimenter. His biggest goal in this world is to survive until January 1, 1999. And 3 months later, the Raccoon City incident broke out, followed by a series of incidents that ignited the entire world. At that time, Garcia, who was lying on the bed with a fractured tibia, had only one death. Chen Yuyan. I'm a mud horse. You beast. I'm going to kill you. Kill you Chen Yuyan. Even an umbrella company observer in a suit next to him couldn't bear to look at him. He frowned and said, "Okay. Your injury, umbrella company will help you treat it. I will arrange a helicopter to take you to go to Raccoon City. There is a hospital run by the umbrella company, with the most advanced medical facilities. A fracture of this level can recover in 3 or 4 months." After speaking, the observer waved his hand, and several people dragged Garcia up and walked outside. However, when he heard that he was going to Raccoon City, Garcia's face turned pale, and he screamed loudly, "I'm not going to Raccoon City. I'm not going. I'm not going to Raccoon City. Save me. Chen Yuyan. Save me." However, Chen Yuyan just stood there motionless, and the expression on his face didn't change at all. It didn't take long for the other couples to decide the winner. Not surprisingly, Hector Cives, Michaela Heinz-Waffen, and Makoto Suzuki also defeated their opponents. In addition, there is an Israeli who is a retired special soldier of Israel's 269 Special Forces. At this time, the middle-aged woman nodded in satisfaction, stepped forward and said, "Then, you are welcome to join the Umbrella Special Operations Force, which belongs to the U.S.S. Delta Squad. From now on, I will be your captain. You can call me, Rupier. Thank you for the 2,000 starting point coins rewarded by the Assimilation Fighter. Thank you for the 1,000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers. Thank you Tees fans for the reward of 100 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 19. 19 Wolfpack Squad. After signing the high contract with a daily salary of $10,000, Chen Yuyan and the others followed Looper to the airport in Santiago, the capital of Chile, by helicopter, where they changed to the Concorde supersonic airliner dedicated to Umbrella Company and flew directly to France. Paris. Of course, because Chen Yuyan and Hector fulfilled Hank's agreement, the amount of training was tripled and tripled respectively, so their contract is a daily salary of $20,000. Chen Yuyan expressed displeasure at this, and he told Hank that since he was paid 3 times as much, his contract should be a daily salary of $30,000, but the uncle just snorted and said he was thinking too much. Paris is the headquarters of Umbrella Company, and there is a building with more than 50 floors in the most prosperous neighborhood as the administration and business department. And there is also a most advanced laboratory in the outskirts of the city, which is mainly responsible for the research of various new pharmaceuticals, and these are the biggest business of umbrella company on the surface. The U.S.S headquarters is located near the Umbrella Research Base on the outskirts of Paris. After stepping off the helicopter, the new team members Chun Yuyan and Hector underwent very strict identity checks and full-body disinfection, and were then brought into an extremely modern command center. Looper was also introducing them along the way. The U.S.S is the most secretive unit of Umbrella Corporation. It is divided into 4 teams: Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta. The division of labor is different. The Alpha team, led by Hank, mainly responsible for handling the internal affairs of the company, because some experiments conducted by Umbrella Company are very dangerous, so once an accident occurs in the experiment, the Alpha team will investigate and deal with the aftermath. The Beta and Gamma teams are mainly responsible for tactical command and logistics, and generally do not have combat missions. As for us, the U.S.S Delta team, Rupier's sharp eyes swept over Chun Yuyan and the others. It is the processing company. The dirtiest things, kidnapping, assassination, destroying evidence, and all shady actions are all done by us. Moreover, the company covers a very large area, and there are always some people who are not safe inside, so these people are also ours. Let's get it done. Hector whistled. If that's the case, aren't we the people who know too much? Do we still have a chance to retire in the future? If you want to retire, you need to sign a non-disclosure agreement with the company. Once you violate this agreement, you will become the targets of the USS. Look around you, there are all the top killing machines in the world, at the same level as you. The existence of. Do not doubt, we can always achieve the goal. Looper said coldly. After a pause, she continued, but generally speaking, if there is an emergency in the company, the U.B.C.S group of cannon fodder will investigate and deal with the aftermath immediately. Once they can't complete it, it's our turn to appear. So many times there are not many combat missions, but don't think that it is very leisurely. I will let you get busy. Then how many people are in our team? Chun Yuyan asked. Several members of the last batch of team members have already chosen to retire, so now including you and me, there are 10 people in total. But before that, you must first choose a code name for yourself. In the days to come, we will use the code names match, and the company will cover up our real names and information for us. In other words, in society, we are all dead. Looper replied, you have 10 seconds to think about it. After finishing speaking, she yelled on a communicator on her wrist, and 4 people came from the other side, 3 men and 1 woman. The woman among them made Chun Yuyan take another look, because she really stood out among the group of people. Compared with the 5 big and 3 thick men around her, her figure is really petite, only about 1.6 meters, with a head of capable short hair, and some slender eyes full of indifference. Moreover, this woman seemed to be of mixed race between the East and the West, with fair and delicate skin and an exquisite appearance, but she was just a little too cold. Starting today, we are the new U.S.S Delta team, and we will be teammates fighting side by side for a long time to come. Let us all introduce ourselves, Looper said. Among the 4 who came later, a tall and thin man with a pale face said, my name is Spectre, and I'm in charge of intelligence analysis and sniping. Another big man also stood up, my name is White, fireman. The relatively younger person smiled kindly and said, my name is Mocha, a hacker, responsible for intelligence collection and data intrusion. Nice to meet you. 4 Eyes, responsible for battlefield data analysis and virus research. The petite girl said very indifferently. Then it was the turn of the newcomers. Hector laughed and stood up and said loudly, call me Beltway, Beltway. I am good at blasting and making bombs, and I am very strong. Bertha, good at killing and healing. Michaela Heinzwaffen also gave herself a code name. Crane is good at assassination and infiltration, and I can drive all kinds of aircraft and vehicles. The retired Israeli Unit 269 said. Vector, good at killing. Makoto Suzuki said coldly. It's time for Chanyuyan. He thought about what his specialty is. Good at undercover? There is no such thing, so he scratched his head and said, call me Zero, who is good at fighting. The name Zero actually comes from document Zero, and he has always been worried about this document. After all, it is related to the blank 34 years after he crossed. Looper finally clapped his hands and said, very well, I have read the files of each of you, and I also considered each of you's expertise when selecting you. However, joining the Delta team is just the beginning. Starting today, I will train you in the strictest way, which I call Wolf Pack Tactics, and we are the Wolf Pack. The following days were repeated again, training and learning day after day. After joining the U.S., the proportion of physical training decreased slightly, and more tactical training. Looper also intentionally improved the tacit understanding among the 10 members of the entire team. Each of them has their own specialties, and they also perform their own duties in battle, and cooperate with each other to exert extremely strong combat effectiveness. For example, Victor Civis, well, he should be called Beltway now. Before Chanyuyan, he didn't know his expertise in blasting, but now he understands that in the hands of this fat man, almost anything can be used. Make a bomb. Beltway even made a little explosion with some ingredients in the fridge right under his nose at breakfast one time. Of course, the target of the explosion was Chanyuyan's coffee cup, and Beltway was beaten up black and blue by Chanyuyan in the end. During the training, Chanyuyan was a little surprised that the petite girl with 4 eyes was also super powerful. Her seemingly weak body actually contains powerful strength. On the training ground, she is agile, high speed, and precise. Although she is slightly inferior to other players, the gap is not that big. Even Chanyuyan could tell that even if Garcia was allowed to go up and fight 4 eyes, Garcia probably wouldn't be able to last long. What's more, she is also a virus expert, which is even more valuable. Thanks to the book friend 1507102102541515 for the reward of 1000 starting coins. Thank you Tees fans for the reward of 100 starting coins. All Heavens Unlimited Base. Author, Jingde Ren. Chapter 20. 20 The Study of 4 Eyes. Another day of heavy practice, no, 2 days to be precise. Rupier threw them into a training building that simulated combat in an indoor environment, and tossed them for more than 30 hours without sleep. During this time, there were endless enemy dummies and civilian dummies emerging almost everywhere. Chanyuyan and the others were required to hit the dummy's head or chest within 3 seconds after the dummy appeared, and they were not allowed to shoot civilians by mistake. The front is okay. As time goes by, the frequency of dummies appearing is almost crazy, and sometimes enemy dummies and civilian dummies are almost stuck together. They fought from top to bottom in this 5-story training building, and then from bottom to top, and I don't know how many times they turned. Moreover, the automatic obstacle machine is constantly changing the terrain. In the end, everyone is almost out of ammunition and food, and can only rely on the saber in their hands to attack. Looper asked them to persist as long as they could. As a result, their entire team persisted for more than 30 hours before they failed with 10 points deducted due to missed kills or manslaughter. Under this double oppression of body and spirit, almost everyone was exhausted, and when they returned to the dormitory, Chanyuyan fell on the bed and fell asleep. This training was actually a very valuable experience for him. Because although he doesn't know much about Resident Evil, he also knows from Garcia that the Raccoon City incident will break out in September, and the U.S. will also be involved. What kind of situation the Raccoon City will be in is actually completely conceivable. In a city of more than 100,000 people, more than 95% of the people have turned into zombies, and public transportation is blocked. In such an urban environment, there is no doubt that just like the previous training, one must not relax for a minute. Almost every minute, zombies may emerge from every corner. In other words, if you can't achieve the level of training just now, you are not qualified to live in Raccoon City. With the aid of the medicine provided by Umbrella Company, Chen recovered after only 4 hours of sleep. He came out and started wandering around the headquarters. In fact, according to Looper, under normal circumstances, they can go out to play during the rest time after training, as long as they do not reveal their identities. But during this period of time, it seems that it is not very peaceful. The Umbrella Company seems to have noticed something and asked the U.S.S to be ready for combat at any time. So Chen Yuyan had nothing to do here. The other team members are quite busy, and the U.S.S is also very interested in their respective strengths, and is very willing to give full play to their strengths while improving their combat capabilities. For example, Beltway, who is good at blasting, Umbrella Company specially invited experts in blasting to discuss with him how to improve. Others include Phantom sniping, Mocha's hacking skills, Bertha's field medical treatment, and Klein's driving skills. After training, they will ponder over their own specialties in order to play a better role in battle. So what's my specialty? Chen Yuyan scratched his head, but couldn't think of anything, so he turned around and walked towards the laboratory. Since he doesn't know, then go flirt with her. If I remember correctly, there should be a place where four-eyed girls like to stay when they have nothing to do, right? Implant the number 4 strain into the experimental body, 0.2 milligrams from a distance. I heard the voice of Four Eyes directing the technology and personnel to carry out the experiment. Observe the mutation reaction, 20 seconds, start timing. When the time is up, immediately use the booster immune agent to inject and observe the number of white blood cells produced. Okay, next, use ordinary meat as the target and observe the reaction of the experimental subjects. Replace the paper smeared with the target drug as a target, and observe the reaction of the experimenter. Walking into the laboratory, I saw Xian wearing a white coat, wearing a mask, and busy with a syringe in his hand. And in the glass container on the test bench, there are several small white mice. These small white mice have obviously been injected with different medicines, and they are in different states now. Some are very manic, and some are already dying. Chen Yuyan didn't bother him either, he just watched from the sidelines, feeling that the experiment was quite fun. Look at that little white mouse, frantically biting a piece of A4 printing paper, as if this is its lifelong enemy. The 74th experiment is over. Record the experimental data, observe the subject quietly, and record the data again after 24 hours. Xian ordered, then turned around, and immediately saw Chen Yuyan staring at him here. What are you doing here? Four Eyes asked coldly. Hey, I said we should be familiar with each other after these 2 or 3 weeks, why are you still so cold? Chen Yuyan said, waving his hands. Familiarity and whether I need to change my way of speaking are not necessarily related. Four Eyes replied. Have you always been like this? It started when I found that these meaningless emotions would affect my work. Four Eyes said. Actually, you don't need this at all. We have an old saying in China that men and women work together without getting tired. Why don't you do something happily? For example, let's try it now. Look at these little things. White mice are quite fun, I can help you get rid of them. Chen Yuyan was just looking for trouble now. He walked over to take a closer look at those little white mice. Drop. Chen Yuyan accidentally touched a button clumsily, and one of the cages suddenly opened, and the little white mouse inside ran out with a whoosh. Chen Yuyan hurriedly chased after him, who knew that just as he stepped forward, he heard a ding, and a syringe arrived first, nailing the little white mouse to the ground. Looking back, she saw 2 more syringes in Xian's hand. At some point, she looked at Chen Yuyan with great interest, and just stared at him for half a minute before she suddenly said, in fact, I really want to find you something. Chen Yuyan was stunned. This girl who didn't care about other people and things except training and experiments actually came to him for something. Only Saucian put down the syringe in his hand, turned around and took out an injection gun connected to a jar from the cabinet, and said lightly, "Let me draw some of your blood." "Are you kidding me?" Chen wasn't happy about it anymore. Looking at the jar, it must have a capacity of 500 milliliters. He had no doubt that Four Eyes would definitely fill that jar up if given the chance. He stepped back and said, "By the way, why do you want to draw my blood?" "I asked Looper for your training report on Nuckford Island. I have experienced the training there. If it is 3 times the amount, it is impossible for normal people to complete it. And I also have the recent training process. Looking at you, your physical strength, and speed are all higher than the limit that normal humans can achieve, so I need to conduct an inspection on you. Maybe your physique is different from others." Four Eyes said. "Even if my physique is better than others, that's not the reason why you want to draw my blood. It's absolutely not allowed." Chen refused sternly. Looking at Chen appearance with Four Eyes, he thought for a while and said, "Through the research on your blood sample, it may be of more help to my research. Maybe I will research more types of viruses or strengthened medicines. Thank you for the 1000 starting point coins rewarded by the Star Sea Rangers."